Us now on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline, former BYU basketball head coach Steve Cleveland, the man who knows a thing or two about rebuilding a program. He took over the BYU basketball team after a 1-25 campaign. Steve, now it's Mark Pope's job, though he inherits a 19-win team. 5 days later, what do you think of his hire for BYU basketball?
It's a great fit. It's a great fit, and he kind of marks all the boxes. I mean, he's a known commodity. He was at BYU for 4 years. He's been a head coach for 4 years. He's got a pedigree from the NCAA tournament to the NBA, relationship with people around the country. And he's just got a really high-energy personality and someone that everybody's going to love. So it's a great hire and a great fit.
Now he has the task of hiring assistants. Walk us through what that is like, since you did this at several different schools, 2 notable D1s in BYU and Fresno State. You're the guy. How do you find your assistants?
Well, usually through relationships that you've had over the years, the people that you've gotten to know, people that think like you do, people that have the same goals that you have, people that have relationships with coaches, other coaches, and guys you know that have relentless work ethics, people that are motivated, self-motivated, that all of those things come into it. Oftentimes, sometimes you may hire someone that you're very close to as a friend. Other times there may be people that you don't really even know. But that process is important, and it's the most important thing that they're doing right now. And then from what I could hear and understand, it sounds like Mark's down the road with it. He had really good assistants at UVU. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of them come over. But it's something you got to get right at, because you can't do this by yourself.
This is a big decision too, Steve, because you're literally going to hang out with these people more than your own family, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I remember my first 4 or 5 months, it was Dave Rose and I staying at the Marriott Courtyard, staying in the same room for 3.5 months while his family and my family were getting ready to relocate. And, yeah, these are going to be some of the closest people that you'll ever be with the rest of your life. Outside of your wife and your kids, you're going to spend more time with them than you actually are to your family for a while.
How was Dave as a roommate for 3.5 months, Steve?
He was good.
He didn't need to make his bed, right?
We were only there for like, an hour or so every day, and then we were gone and get back late at night and just kind of fall asleep. But we did get to know each other well. And Dave wasn't a close friend. He wasn't somebody I knew. But after living with him for 6 months, you get to know everybody pretty well. So it was great.
How long is the process? And for that matter, what's the process like when you sit down and you're compiling lists, pros and cons, when you're trying to solidify the inner circle part of your basketball family?
Well, I think that they're down the road. I heard a comment that he's way down the road on that. I mean, I think when you start thinking about being involved in jobs, even before you get a job, you've already in your mind figured out, okay, who would I want as assistant? Who are the people? Because he's been a Division I head coach for 4 years, has worked other places and met a lot of people, you have a short list. And I would think that a couple of, whether it's a Chris Burgess or Cody Huger, people that he's been working with for 4 years at UVU, I would be surprised if they're not at the top of that list, but I don't know. And I haven't spoke to him, but those are people that he's comfortable with. I've been with him and his staff at UVU. I spent time with him, watched him practice. And if you already have what you need, there's no reason to go out and look for something different. I think that you've got to be compatible on a lot of different levels, but more than anything, you want guys that have really, really strong work ethic, that are not afraid to share their opinion. I don't think you want to surround yourself with guys that just agree with everything. Guys that have ideas and thoughts and in closed meetings are willing to talk about things that need to be better. And then that relationship of trust is really, really important. People that you can trust, people of integrity that you know are all in and going to know that the team comes first and we're going to build something together. And it's not about who gets credit. It's just about doing it together. And I think he's met enough people along the road that this will be a pretty quick hiring process. I mean, I know there's a process within BYU that will take some time, but I would be shocked if he already hasn't had a staff together and knows who exactly he wants there.
His number one job is to keep the team he's got, or at least evaluate them in that way. What's it like, Steve, when you come into a program and you see what you have in terms of players, and then you decide what you want, and then those players decide the same thing if they want to stay on the team?
It's not easy. That transition is not easy. And I think the thing that Mark has going for him is that he probably knows most of these players pretty well. He probably was even involved in the recruiting of some of them a long time ago. So the fact that Mark is a known commodity, that he knows the program here at BYU and has interacted and probably had him in his gym in the summer and he's been around, will make the process easier. But I think you're kind of going to programs where you're kind of reconciling short-term needs with long-term goals. And, you want to evaluate the players and who can help. I mean, it's a difficult thing to all of a sudden start taking scholarships away and those kinds of things. That isn't always the most comfortable thing to do. But there may be a time this spring or summer where the conversations take place and, maybe they aren't a fit and it may be time to move on. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but certainly there are players in the program that have been playing and have contributed, and Mark knows who they are. He's coached against them, and I think the key thing is developing a relationship with those young people and as quickly as possible, developing relationships with their families, making them feel comfortable about what their role is. But this is a process, and things will change. And with recruiting and with graduate transfers, things can all change. So it's kind of a working document here, and what's going on today may change tomorrow. And you just want to be on top of everything. But first and foremost, sit down with the players that are in the program, share with them your vision for the program, and let them know, listen, we're not making any decisions here. We need to go forward. He's certainly got guys in that program right now that he knows he wants to stay. I'm sure he'll share that with them. And then they'll move forward over the next month or two as this thing develops.
BYUtv basketball analyst, former BYU basketball men's head coach Steve Cleveland with us on BYU Sports Nation. What's a fair expectation for Mark Pope and this team in season number 1?
Well, I think expectation in terms of winning and losing, an expectation of setting up a foundation, his foundation is that to have a really good recruiting year this year and to look to add 1 or 2 or 3 players that can make this a more complete team and a more competitive team in the WCC and a team that possibly could get to the postseason. A lot of those things, because sometimes what we haven't mentioned, sometimes players do leave as well. And so those are all kind of the unknowns. But I would think that they'll be very competitive. I went with Nick and TJ and Harding and Baxter and Wade. They've got kind of a solid nucleus there. They need more if they want to finish in the top 2 or 3 of this conference, and I think they'll recruit to that. Certainly this is going to be a group of young people that are going to have a different experience. Every coach is different, but Coach Pope's got a lot of energy, and he's been around, understands what it takes to develop a team. But I would think they'll be highly competitive next year. And depending on how recruiting goes in the next 8 to 12 weeks will determine whether it looks like there's someone that can compete in the top 2 or 3 or they're still building. I mean, that's just to be determined.
Do you feel like BYU needs a grad transfer or a JUCO guy to bolster this team, or do you think they'd be fine as is?
No, they're not fine as they are. They are not good enough right now as they are. And I think Harding's going to be a completely different player next year. I think he's going to make a big-time contributor. I think if Nick, I think he'll be better next year. I think TJ's a senior. Baxter, they'll all be better, and there'll be a better group together because of what's going to happen the next 6 or 7 months. But they need more than what they have. This is a league that has continued to get better. And just, no matter how good Gonzaga is, you still set goals to win a conference championship. And if Gonzaga is the top of this league, then, there's not enough talent and experience in the program right now to beat Gonzaga. And so that's what you're recruiting to and getting to the NCAA tournament. So, yes, a grad transfer would be wonderful. A junior college transfer, an international player, if any of those things are possible, all of those things will help make this a better team and a better program starting off.
Steve, great stuff. I hope you got your taxes done. If not, you've got about 14 hours left to submit those.
I do have my taxes done, guys.
Hey, nice.
Thanks, Coach.